Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this very interesting little knife right here. This is the A Purvis Blades Primordial. Very interesting piece, and I want to thank very much one of my viewers, Andy, for actually donating this guy to the channel in exchange for it going to charitable causes. He messaged me and he said, Nick, I love the channel and I want to support both you and the charity, so here's the deal. Well, pick a knife around $300 and I will send it to you for free, so long as whatever you make off of it goes to charity afterwards. That's a beautiful thing there, Andy. I much appreciate that. And yeah, so that's how this guy came onto my table. Thank you very much there. Next thing, size comparison. This is actually an interestingly sized knife. I thought that it was a lot bigger than it actually is. But here it is against your Spyderco Delica, your Ontario Rat number 1. Pardon me. And here it is against your Ontario Rat number 2. So you can see here, like size-wise, this is not a huge knife. It's actually a quite nice little size here. It's very carryable, etc. So there's your size. Next thing, who the heck is A Purvis Blades? What the heck's this about? This is Adam Purvis. He's actually, I think he's a full-time firefighter, but, and makes knives in his spare time there. He also does a lot of clips for people. I see him doing really neat-looking clips for folks, and actually, it makes sense. He's good clip here, too. But he has started a company, A Purvis Blades, and this is, I don't know if it's his first design, but at the very least, it's the first one I've had on the table here, but it's actually quite impressive, and this is a collaboration with We Knives. By the way, he has made this with We Knives, using them as the factory, and it is absolutely, well, it's maybe not a collaboration, they're just the makers of it, but the simple fact is they've done really nice work here, so, and he'd been on my radar for a long time, but then, you know, I kind of, when John sent that along, I just went over like, okay, I wonder what's good in this price range. And I remembered, oh yeah, there's this thing. I should check that out. And so I hadn't checked it out before, but that's not a snub on him. It's just like lots of vision to see. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, the ugly, and the final conclusion of this absolutely very interesting knife right here. So to start with, this guy has a nice blade. It is absolutely on the thicker side, certainly, but it is made of M390 steel. Let's see right there's the steel label. It is a nice Bowie style blade, and it is a sort of, it's a weird Bowie style blade. It's got this recurve thing going on. It's got this cutout here. But it is, classically, absolutely 100% a Bowie knife. But it's also got nice things like a sharpening choil here, and it actually is ground relatively thin. It comes to a nice thin edge there. I really do like the blade here. It puts in good work, and even at the tip here, it's relatively thin. That's just a beautiful thing. And so I like the blade on this guy very, very much. Next thing, this has some very nice carbon fiber overlays here. You can see here on this side, it is just plain carbon fiber. On this side here, he's got some nice cutouts through the carbon fiber and the titanium underneath it. That is absolutely a beautiful thing. You can see it does go all the way through there. You can see the lock bar on the other side. But nevertheless, yeah, that's absolutely very, very nice. And that makes this guy kind of a mix between a frame lock, a bolster lock. Not quite sure which it is. But nevertheless, they look quite good, and it makes for a beautiful knife. Next thing, this guy has a beautiful, beautiful flicking action here. This is running on bearings, and you can see here it's got this little big cutout. It's got this nice big cutout here. But that makes it very easy to get in there with the corner of your finger here. And if I'm not doing this on camera, pop it out 100% reliably. Seriously, that was, it's always difficult to do the kinds of things you do on a night, because I have like a total of like probably 9 inches between the camera and the table here, and so working within that field is trickier. But anyways, it's very easy to flick for me with the index finger, or I imagine you could use your middle finger as well. If you were skilled, you could use your middle finger. As for the thumb, it's not so much, or you can always two-hand it open if you'd like. But it's a very nice flicker, and it is fully ambidextrous in terms of your flicking skill. You can't swap the clip, but still, that's a beautiful thing. Next thing, this guy has a nice little tiny backspacer here. I don't even know that it's a backspacer at this point. It's like a butt spacer. I don't know if that's a thing, but now it is. So it's got a nice little butt spacer here. It's a spacer, whatever it is, and it looks well. Looks well, guys. Holy crap, it's 8:59 a.m. and I'm already just tongue-tied, who knows. But anyways, it looks good, and there are no gaps or anything like that. And it's a nice little touch, and it really does help to protect you from this blade being in there. You're not going to be able to poke yourself, etc. It's a nice little detail there. Ergonomically speaking, this knife is actually quite good. It narrows down a fair amount, but it's relatively secure in your hand because you've got this little area down here. You've got a nice blade guard to it. It fits well, and the clip overall, by the way, works quite well. I thought when I first saw this, oh, that's going to be a hot spot, but it really isn't because it's wide enough that it just provides another area. It provides a little bit of extra thickness for your hand to grab onto, and I appreciate that. So ergonomically speaking, this is pretty good, at least for my relatively small hands, and that's good. And actually, speaking of the clip on this is quite good. It's no shock, like I said, A Purvis does a lot of clipping, but the simple fact is that this is a nice little clip here, right? I got no complaints about that. So that's good. And then finally, honestly, on the good side, the design of this guy, the lines are really nice. It's like a sci-fi Bowie knife or something like that. It's got this weird mix of, like, Blade Runner and Old West. It's absolutely bizarre, but I find it pretty compelling. And it's maybe a little bit more traditional than, like, Elijah Isham, who, by the way, I think he's collaborating with A Purvis and some things. But either way, it's not quite as out there and sci-fi as that, but it's this weird mix of, like, if you just look at this area, it's very traditional. You just look at this area, it's very science fiction. Put the whole thing together, and it's just unusual. But I kind of like it. I think the design is very pretty and interesting. So to me, that's what's good here. So that it's got great lines in a design, got a great clip, nice ergonomics, a full backspacer, easy flick with a really, really nice action, a good carbon fiber inlays and or overlays, that is, and a very nice blade. To me, on the great side, honestly, is the size of this. This is weird, but at some level, and this is fully biased, this is my own personal opinion, but I really like the size of this guy because at some level, it is more than big enough to get work done here. We're coming in at like 3.3 or so inches of blade here, so it's over the 3-inch line, but it's not, so it's big enough to get any amount of work done, really, that at least in my everyday life I need to deal with, but it's also very, very carryable. It's not so super thick, it's not so super heavy. In fact, it's not particularly heavy at all. I'll throw it on the scale here. We're coming in here at 3.03 ounces, so it's less than an ounce an inch. But it's just an absolutely great knife in the pocket, coupled with this pocket clip here. It's really, really good. And frankly, the design lends it a certain drama, despite its size, that makes it look a little bit bigger than it actually is. I like this knife a lot, design-wise, and carrying it was a real pleasure. It's kind of unusual. I carry a lot of knives, as you can imagine, but it's unusual for me to feel like, this knife was really great in the pocket, and this one was. And so I have to respect that, and I have to appreciate that. And to me, that's what's great, is it's a very nice carryable size and weight and configuration in general. It was just a great companion in the pocket there. On the bad side, to start with, it is a recurve blade, and that's not going to be great to sharpen. The recurve isn't so severe here that you could probably get away with a flatter stone system or something like that. But the simple fact is, anytime you go to a recurve, and especially one that's not so strong here, it's just going to be a royal pain here to sharpen. If you're using flat bench stones or something, well, even a stronger one would be too. But simple fact is, you are paying a price for that recurve. Next thing, the stock on this guy is pretty thick. Let's do a quick measurement here. Pull out my caliper. We have about 0.15 inches worth of thickness of stock here. That is 4 millimeters for those of you who use reasonable units. So that is absolutely not great. I cannot wait for the day when makers are having to justify that kind of stock thickness. When somebody, because, right now, 0.15, a lot of makers, and especially a lot of these overseas mid-techs, I get the impression that, like, We Knives menu is just like 0.15 unless you ask for otherwise, and a lot of makers go, okay. But I cannot wait for the day when makers need to sit, when people are going to say to them, like, why the heck is it 0.15? What are you doing? What the heck? And so I would like to see the thinner stock here. I think it would make it a better cutter. It would make it just a nicer knife in general, make it thinner, even more carryable. I just don't know why it was as thick as it is, and I hope and wish that maybe another future version might thin that down a little bit, because it's just going to be a better cutter in hard surfaces, etc. You'll have less room for stuff to get trapped inside your fuller, etc. I don't freaking know. Well, fuller, opening hole, whatever you want to call it. I could skip that, and so I really do wish this were a little bit thinner. And finally, on the bad side, the price on this guy is not like, oh my god, amazing. It's $300, which, look, it's a well-made knife. It's M390. It's got nice carbon fiber. So it's not like, oh, you're ripping me off here, but it's also not like, it's not super like, oh my god, compelling. Price-wise, there were a lot of really great knives available for $300, and, it's getting to the point now where at $300, the market's super competitive. So, it's good. It's well done. It's going to put it out of range for a lot of people to start with, but still, I would like to see a little bit more in that price. Well, a little less in that price, actually. I think that would make it a little bit more compelling as a piece. But that's the bad here, is that $300 it's a fair chunk of change, and I'd like to see that come down a little bit. The stock is a little thick, and the recurve is not going to be great to shop it. On the ugly front, there's actually nothing really ugly here, so let's just go to the final conclusion. Look, my final conversion here, right? I am converted to the Primordial. No, my final conclusion here is that this was actually kind of a surprise to me. Like I said, initially, when it first came out, I saw some folks who really liked it, and some folks I respected. And I'd kind of put it aside, though, because like, okay, it's got a recurve, and okay, 0.15, what the heck is he trying? Is he chopping down trees? Is this like Paul Bunyan's pocket knife? What the heck? But then when Andy made the offer, it was just like, okay, yeah, why the heck not? Sure. And I'm actually really glad I did, because this turns out to be a very, very nice knife. It's got a great blade to it. It's got a great design, a great action, and honestly, it just carries wonderfully. It's really, really nicely done in that domain. There's a lot to like about this guy. Mind you, I still don't love the recurve. I don't know. Maybe it adds something to the aesthetic and with the overall swoops here. I'm not a designer there. But I don't know. Flat might have been a little nicer here, and I sure wish the blade stock was thinner. That, to me, is just like, come on, guys. Why is this a thing? And I really hope that for future editions, he thinks about narrowing that down a little bit, because I think it would just be roundly better otherwise. And, $300 is going to be a deal breaker for a lot of people just on the surface. Like, I can't afford $300 knife, so okay, can't get this one. But the simple fact is that I still really did like the knife. It's one that I found myself kind of dragging my feet on reviewing because I was enjoying carrying it, because I was enjoying the knife. It's a really solid piece and a very nice everyday piece. And so, this was not something I had any problems having in my pocket at all. I enjoyed it, and frankly, it was one of those where it was like, I would take something else that I wasn't loving so much out of the pocket, put this back in, like, yeah, that's better. Like I said, ultimately, the recurve and the thickness are going to kick it out of my collection, because, I cut too much stuff that this isn't going to go well for. But at the same time, it's not hard to recommend. And in fact, it's right borderline on gem. If this were like 0.13, we'd be jamming all day there. We'd be jamming, won't you jam with me too? All freaking day long. But if you really don't mind that stock thickness, if you're willing to pay the price and you like the design on this guy, I think this could absolutely be a gem for you. It is really, really nicely done. Well done, A Purvis, and the brand is absolutely on my radar for the future. So there you go. I hope this has been interesting to you, that I didn't spit any Primordial ooze down onto the table here. Probably did. Sorry about that. And mostly, I hope that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful, come on, a Primordial joke. Those are hard, okay? Give me credit here. But I hope you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.